Hello everybody and welcome back to 89 Games. We're continuing our Gloomhaven character guide series. Today we are talking about one of the unlockable characters, the Three Spears character. So, quick warning right now for spoilers. If you haven't played Gloomhaven yet, but you're playing through for the first time and don't want any spoilers, here's your spoiler warning. Click away now, come back when you've unlocked him. But for everyone else, let's go ahead and get started. So here is our Quartermaster. Now the Quartermaster is an interesting character for sure. He is a jack of all trades, master of none, and you can honestly play several different viable builds with him, depending on which cards you pick up and what cards you use. But we're going to talk today about the broken build. So let's go ahead and jump over to these cards here, and we'll start talking about them. But what I mean by the broken build is the Quartermaster is one of the few characters in the game that actually can break the game because of cards like Scroll of Recall here, where we can refresh one of our consumed small items. That means something like a stamina potion, which this works better once you get a major stamina potion, but you could refresh your stamina potion, your major stamina potion with this, and then get 2 of your discarded cards back. And there's others that do this too, like Oversized Pack. The bottom of it, you get all of your consumed items, small items back. So there are several cards that we can use to get indefinite turns with the Quartermaster. He'll never exhaust from running out of cards. Even though he only has 9 cards in his hand, if you use him correctly and you play the cards right, you can play indefinitely. So much so that at the end of a scenario, when the last enemy is all you need to kill to end the scenario, you can take the Quartermaster, run around the entire map, take as many turns as you want, loot all the gold, and then come back and kill that enemy to win the scenario. So we're going to talk about that, but I'm also going to build him into a ranged AoE damage type of character, which is something unique. Maybe a lot of people haven't done that with the Quartermaster. It worked really well when I played him because I played him in a group where we had a very strong team. And playing him this way really helped. This character and another together wiped out the first 2 rooms of every scenario in about 2-3 turns. 2 or 3 turns we were through the first 2 rooms of a scenario and everything was dead. So let's talk about it as we get into the cards here with the Quartermaster, starting up with Restock. So Restock, all allies within range 2 refresh one of their spent or consumed items. This is a burn, you get 2 XP, and the bottom is an attack 3. So this is pretty good if your allies all have really good items that they want to refresh and use again. But it's not that good for you personally, especially if you're going for the staying in the game as long as possible build like I'm talking about. So this is probably one that will end up taking out at some point, but the attack 3 on the bottom is nice for that double attack situation if you get to be, next to someone on the start of your turn. So let's go ahead and move on to Oversized Pack. This is one that we'll keep in for a long time. So the top is a loot 2 that's not a burn, and it's a top. So that's the other thing about the Quartermaster is that he can really loot the field, get a crap ton of gold, so much easier than most of your other characters because of these loots that he has, loot cards that are not burns. And later on he also has one that's a move and loot. And the Quartermaster really does excel the more items that he has because of him being able to refresh and reuse those items multiple times. So looting actually does make a lot of sense for him to acquire as many things as he can to be able to use in combat. And then the bottom of this one, refresh all of your consumed small items. This is why we'll hang on to it mainly, because even though this is a burn, like I mentioned earlier, if we have a minor and a major stamina potion, as well as there's at least one more item that gives you cards back, you can get all of those items back and then use them to get cards back. Which means with the stamina potions alone, you can get 3 of your discarded cards back, which essentially gives you a whole nother turn and a half. And then once you use something like Scroll of Recall to get your major one back again, now you've got a whole nother turn back in addition. So you can kind of see how this cycle might work, and we could stay up as long as we want. So moving on though, from Oversized Pack, then we'll move into Sharpening Kit. This one's a heal 4 range 2. It's a pretty good heal, even though it's only range 2, but it is like our only heal card for the Quartermaster at this point, and I don't remember if there was one. I know I don't take one if there is one in the leveled cards. So he's not a good healer. He can be a great support character by giving allies items back, and because there's more cards that will do this in the future, and giving allies cards back as well. But He's not a great healer, so I really wouldn't recommend keeping this one around very long unless you just really like having that one heal card. The bottom is an aura where you and all allies within range 2 get to add +1 to your attacks for the round, which this is better than some auras because it is a range 2, so it's a little easier to use. But this is one that we'll eventually be trading out as well. Next, then, we have Proficiency. And the top of this one, once during each of your attack actions, if you use an item, add +1 to the entire attack action. This is a burn, but it is also a permanent card, so this will stay active throughout the scenario unless you deactivate it. So this means every time you use an item, you get to add +1 to an entire attack action. This could be really, really powerful for multi-attacks that we'll see later on, because if you use an item with them, which we will be, then this would also add another attack to it. So this is really good for powering up those multi-attacks. And then the bottom is a move 3, which is a good movement, and the Quartermaster generally has pretty good movement, but not the greatest initiative. You see a few lower ones here, like 19, 26, 23, but as we get going, especially with the build that I'm going to do, we're not going to have a lot of low initiatives. We're going to have a lot of middling to later initiatives. But for the strategy that we're going with, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So moving on to Iron Bulwark. Iron Bulwark is attack 3, muddle, you gain 1 XP, and then the bottom, shield 1, aura, where you affect yourself and all allies. So if you're playing more of the melee tank build, this is a good card for that, especially with the muddle on the attack there. But again, not the build that we're going to go with. But if you want to do the melee tank build, this is a good card. Don't think that I'm taking some of these cards out because they're bad necessarily. It's just because they're not going to fit the build that I'm going for in this video. So moving on to Hasten Step. This one is an attack 2, move 1, attack 2. The bottom's a move 5. Again, another good one for a melee build. The bottom move 5, though, is really nice for just having that mobility. So it's one that we'll probably keep in for a long time, just because of that move 5. Plus, the initiative 26 will help us sometimes, too, when we want to go a little bit earlier. And then moving on to Cleaving Axe. This is an attack 2 in that pattern there, where you hit 3 adjacent enemies to you. And then the bottom is another good move 4. I don't like this one even as a melee character too well, because it seems like it's hard to get enemies to line up in that particular pattern, and then when they do and you're only hitting them for an attack 2, it's just really not that good in the long run compared to other things that you could be doing. So then moving on to Impaling Spear. This one I like better because, yes, you can get those 2 enemies in a line, and that's great, that's what you really want. But this also works as a quasi-ranged attack because you can hit that enemy that's 2 spaces away from you because it's a spear. So I do like this attack 3 plus 1 experience every time we use it, and it can be improved later with an additional target on the end of it, as seen by the little pip there. So this is a good melee attack / range attack to hang on to. And then the bottom, again, good mobility with move 4 there. So moving on to Crippling Bow, attack 3, range 3. Your basic, decent range attack, plus it gives you 1 XP. And then the bottom is an attack 1, range 4, immobilized. So this could be useful. Again, as we've talked about in the past, range attacks that have immobilized can be really good for holding down those melee enemies that can't attack you from range. So it's almost as good as a stun on them. So I like to keep this one in, especially if I'm playing a ranged build. This helps me play that range in the beginning. This one and Impaling Spear really help you with that range in the beginning. But in a level 1 Quartermaster, you will be using more of your melees, obviously, early on. But it's also likely that you won't be playing a level 1 Quartermaster, because by the time you unlock him, you'll probably be at level maybe 2 or 3 Prosperity, or even higher in Gloomhaven. So you'll probably not play a Quartermaster at level 1 anyway. So those were his level 1 cards. Let's go ahead and talk about the X cards here. Crushing Hammer is an attack 3 stun, gain 2 XP. It's a burn. Not great. It stuns, yes, but it's a burn attack. Again, I'm going for a ranged build here, so we're probably not going to take that one. The bottom, move 2, shield oneself. Great if you're playing the melee build. It's not what we're doing here. Scroll of Recall, however, though, is an absolute must. This is how we stay in the game much longer. So the top is refresh one of your consumed small items. This means any of your potions or the other small items, which often give us pretty unique benefits. In this case particular, I'm thinking of stamina potions, because we can use a stamina potion to get a discarded card back. Then we can play this card to get our stamina potion back, and then get another card back again. So let's talk real quickly how that might look. So Maybe we play something like the bottom of Crippling Bow. Okay, we're just going to attack one and mobilize something at a distance. We play this card first, and we play the attack. It is now discarded. Okay, we use our stamina potion to get this card back. Okay, so now it's like we never even had to play this card. Then we use this to refresh that stamina potion that we just used, and we get it back. And now we use our stamina potion to get this card back because it's in our discard. And now you just played a whole turn and you didn't discard any cards. You got them both back. That is one way how you can stay in the game indefinitely. Now, it's a little hard because this is a top here, so it prevents you from using your other tops. There are ways to get around it. We talked about oversized pack. This one does burn to do it, but if you're getting all of your items back that give you cards back, this is a lot more powerful. So once you have that second, you have the major stamina potion and the minor stamina potion, that's when it makes sense to use this. And also another item that we'll talk about later too that gives you cards back, then that becomes even more powerful. But this little play right here, using the bottom of something, the top of this, you can definitely play 2 cards over and over again. So with that said, Scroll of Recall is definitely one that we will put in. We'll take out Proficiency because we're not going to be using Proficiency to help our allies. In this case, with this build, we're going to go with the Scroll of Recall. And the bottom of it is a pull 1, range 3, target 3. We're not going to be using that. I mean, you can if you really want to, because it's not a burn. Neither side's a burn. You'd get this card back eventually. But unless there's like a bunch of traps around you and a really good use of that where you can kill some enemies, I don't see why we'd want to use that one. And then the Initiative, 98, really good if you want to go late, but really bad otherwise. And then the last card for the X cards is Reserved Energy. One adjacent ally may refresh all of their spent items. You gain an XP, and then the bottom, another good move with a move 4. So the top of this one actually, again, depending on the allies you have and what they're using. Now, you can't use this one for yourself because it does specifically call out allies. And this one refreshes spent items. We should be very clear about the difference between consumed and spent items. Consumed items are those that go away forever on a scenario normally. So think of health potions, stamina potions. Those are consumed when you use them. Your weapons and your shield or your armor are spent items that refresh when you take a long rest. So when this says it gives your spent items back, it's not going to give them their potions. It's going to give them their hand weapons or their shields or anything that refreshes on a long rest. So this could be good for those characters who have, say, a lot of good armor or weapons and they're using them very effectively. You could give them all of that back without them having to take a long rest. But otherwise, it's not good for our own personal use, which again, we're playing kind of a selfish build here with the Quartermaster here. So we're going to leave that one out. Now, let's go ahead and move on to talking about all the various leveled cards, starting with level 2, and we're going to either have Reforge or Bladed Boomerang. So, Reforge is you or one adjacent ally may refresh one spent or consumed hand item or 2 hand item. So this only works on hand items like weapons. But then the bottom of it is recover up to 2 of your discarded cards. That's really great, especially for the build that we're trying to go with, staying in the game forever, because now we essentially have our own reusable stamina potion. Major stamina potion, because we can recover 2 of our cards with the bottom of this card. So this one's really great for that staying in the game forever build. And then Bladed Boomerang is a good range attack with 2, and then it wounds, you get 1 XP. And then the bottom is a nice move 2, attack 1, move 2 again. But since we're trying to go with the staying in the game, refreshing our cards, we're going to take Reforge here for this build. And then we're going to take out Cleaving Axe because, again, we really don't like that attack pattern. Put Reforge in. And now, yes, we're losing some attacks. And you'll see towards the end that the Quartermaster isn't going to have a lot of attacks necessarily, but we're going to have huge attacks that take out a lot of enemies. And if you have the right party, it works really, really well. So moving on to level 3, we're going to get Continual Supply or Scroll of Lightning. Now, Continual Supply is at the end of each of your turns, you may discard a card to allow an adjacent ally to refresh one of their consumed small items. Now, this is an active card, so it's a burn, but it's an active card, so it's going to stay active for the entire scenario, which means you could always discard cards at the end of your turn to allies and allow them to refresh small consumed items. So again, depending on your allies and the items that they're using, this could be really powerful if you want to go for the support role in keeping your allies stocked up and able to reuse items they normally wouldn't be able to reuse. Then the bottom of this one allows you to recover up to 2 of your burned cards. Now, you would think I might take this one for the build that we're talking about, but the idea behind the staying in the game forever build is that you hardly ever burn a card with the Quartermaster, because you're going to discard cards and you're going to get those cards back before you ever have to take a long rest. So as a Quartermaster, you might only take 1 long rest in an entire scenario, and that's just because maybe you need some health back or you need some items back. But in general, we're really not going to want to have to use this recover your burned cards. So in this case, this is where I'll actually take the attack card, Scroll of Lightning here, which is an attack 5, range 3, creates light, and then you can move 3, push 1, target all adjacent enemies, and activates wind. So we're going to take this one for that range attack, because attack 5, range 3 is really strong, and this is a great repeatable attack. It's ranged, so we're going to throw that one in, and then we're going to take out Sharpening Kit to put Scroll of Lightning in, because again, we really don't need this heal. We're not going to be using it that much in the capacity that we're doing for our build. Now, if you don't have a healer in your party, you might want to do something else and keep that in. But if you do have a healer in the party, then there's absolutely no reason for the Quartermaster to walk around with this card. So, Scroll of Lightning, great range attack. Let's move on to level 4, where we're going to find Side Pouch and Giant Club. So, Side Pouch, 1 adjacent ally may refresh all of their spent and consumed items. So again, if you're going to support role, this is really good to give someone back everything. They've used it all, and you can just give all of it back. And then the bottom is a move 3 and loot 1. So here we have an actual decent loot card, because I'm moving 3, and then I can just go ahead and loot on top of it. Why not? The loot's a bonus here instead of the point of the card. I can move 3 and then loot 1. So this is actually a really good loot card. And then the bottom one here, the other card is Giant Club, attack 5, gain 1 XP, in the bottom, attack 3, muddle. Great melee card if you're playing a melee tank build, but I'm honestly going to go with Side Pouch. Even though we're not really playing the support role, I would use this one for the bottom, move 3, loot 1, so that I can get all the items I need to make the Quartermaster as effective as possible. So we're going to take Side Pouch. And then to put Side Pouch in, we're going to take out Restock. So Restock comes out, Side Pouch is in. And now we'll move on to level 5, where we'll have Reinforced Steel or Scroll of Judgment. So Reinforced Steel, now this sounds really good, but pay attention to the wording. At the end of each round, refresh 1 of your spent items. So this is an active card. It stays active forever once you turn it on, but it's your spent items, not your consumed items, which means this won't help us get our potions back, which means this doesn't actually fit our build. Unless, of course, again, if we're playing like the tanking build, this could really be really good for getting our armor back and things like that. And then the bottom, Shield 2, affects self and all adjacent allies. Really good if we're playing the tanking build. However, the other one, Scroll of Judgment, is you and all enemies within range 4 suffer 2 damage. This is a really great ranged card. Yeah, you have to take 2 damage for it, big deal. Because if you have 3 or 4 enemies, and say they're shielded enemies within range 4, and they just suffer 2 damage, this is really great for helping take out those big groups of annoyingly low health but high shield enemies. So it does burn, but in the right scenario, it's a nice one to have. However, the bottom of this card is not a burn. Move 2, stun, and you target 1 adjacent enemy. It's a repeatable move and stun. Very powerful. Very nice to have. So even if you don't have the situation where you might use the top of this card, you'll almost always find a situation where you'll use the bottom of this one. So we'll take Scroll of Judgment here at level 5. And then we'll take out Iron Bulwark, because we're not playing the melee, especially at this point. So we'll throw Scroll of Judgment in there, and let's move on to level 6. Level 6, we're going to have Catastrophic Bomb or Quiver of Arrows. So, level 6, like I said, this is where it starts. This is where the AoE build starts. So, Catastrophic Bomb, attack 1, range 3, gain 1 XP, and it's in that huge pattern you see there on the card. This is one of the biggest patterns in the entire game. It covers the majority of most rooms, and yeah, it's only attack 1, but remember, we're playing the Quartermaster who gets stuff back all the time. So, We're going to play this with by level 6, we might be talking major power potion by now. So this is already going to be +2 attack. And then we could, if we want, put proficiency back into our hand, and now it has +1 again. So this attack 1 goes from attack 1 to attack 4 in that huge pattern. Throw in some eagle-eye goggles with it, and you will devastate an entire room. And if you have another member on your team that also has AoE, all they have to do is go in and clean up after you. Or maybe you're the one cleaning up after them. Either way, this can destroy rooms of enemies very easily, especially those weaker, lower health enemies, unshielded enemies. So Catastrophic Bomb is an awesome attack just because of how many it hits, and then you can power it up to be better than what it looks like on its face. And then the bottom of this one, also very powerful. You and all normal enemies within the targeted area suffer 7 damage. So you can be adjacent up to 2 enemies in that pattern, and they'll suffer 7 damage. Now, yeah, you'll suffer the 7 damage too, but you know what? That's okay, because you could be taking out shielded enemies with this easily. Just boom, they're dead. No attack rolls, nothing. They're just dead. So I really like the bottom of this one too. It comes in handy, especially if you do have a healer in your party. Then taking the 7 damage isn't that big a deal, because they can heal you up on the very same turn you use this, or by the next turn. And remember, we also can recover our items, so we could potentially have a health potion set aside to help us with this. So Catastrophic Bomb is an excellent card. Quiver of Arrows, again, if you're going the support role, this can be really powerful too. So it's an aura, and if any adjacent ally performs a ranged attack action, that ally gains add target for the attack. So if you have a ranged character in the party and you have this card active, now this is a burn, but again, it's another active card. This one can give your ranged character add target to all their attacks, which, if you think about some of the ranged characters and their attacks, that's extremely powerful. But you would also have to always be adjacent to them every time they attack, so you'd really have to coordinate your movements to make that work. And then the bottom is a really good move 6. So this one is a great support card if you want to go to the support role and you're powering up your allies, but if you want to do the damage yourself, Catastrophic Bomb all the way. And now that we've taken Catastrophic Bomb, it's getting a little harder to decide what to take out, but we're probably going to go ahead and go with Hasten Step here at this point, and we'll throw Catastrophic Bomb in. Now that's going to hurt our movement some. Not too bad, because we still have some move 3s. We got to move 4. But by this time, we probably have boots and things to help us with movement anyway, so it's really not that big a deal. And now let's go ahead and move on to level 7, where Scroll of Blizzards or Refreshment come up. So Scroll of Blizzards, another great AoE attack. Again, only attack 1, range 2, so you can't start it quite as far away from you as you could the other one, but still, this is going to cover a large portion of a room. It activates Frost for those that need that. But again, we would use this with a power potion, eagle-eye goggles, and this turns into a great multi-target attack. The bottom, immobilize, target all adjacent enemies, and then you move away too, activates darkness. So a good immobilize, because you're doing the immobilize and then moving away from enemies. So I really do like this one. And then Refreshment. Now, Refreshment might seem like the card we would take, talking about the staying in the game as long as possible build, because the top of this one is each time you long rest, refresh one of your consumed items. And then it's a burn, but this is an active card. So every time you take a long rest, we'd be able to get back a stamina potion or a power potion or another consumed item. But again, if we're playing the build the way I've played it and the way I intend this build to be played, you're hardly ever going to long rest, which means this card will hardly ever come into effect, which makes it a complete waste in that regard. So the bottom of this one, any one ally may recover all of their discarded cards, and then it burns. So, that's great too. Give your allies your discarded cards back. But, I mean, at level 6, 7, our allies are 6, 7. I mean, yeah, that's powerful, but by now, it's really not that big a deal for us to give our allies their discarded cards back, because everyone's better and more efficient at using their cards, and it's a nice thing to happen, but it's definitely by no means like super necessary or anything. So we're going to take Scroll of Blizzards because, again, it's the big AoE attack. And from my own personal experience, this works really well. The combination of these two, a turn or two apart, and this is how you clear the first 2 rooms of a map. Again, particularly if you have an ally with you that can also do a lot of damage in a large AoE. So to take Scroll of Blizzards, we're going to have to take something out, and that will end up being Impaling Spear, which is kind of sad to lose. I do like that one, but this is so much better for the just sheer amount of area that is covered by the attack. So Scroll of Blizzard is in, and we're going to move on to level 8, where Portable Ballista or Fortified Position are available. So Portable Ballista, attack 4, huge giant freaking straight line. In fact, there are 5 spaces, so this is essentially an attack 4, range 5. Now, granted, it has to be a straight line, but still. And then you can upgrade this one with additional target spots at the end of it there, or looks like maybe additional attack. But regardless, attack 4, you gain 1 XP in this huge area, which is more than likely you're going to hit at least a couple enemies with this when you use it, and it's reusable. It's a very powerful, very nice ranged attack. And then the bottom, during all your attacks this round, ignore shield values of your targets. So that's a good one to combine when we use something like Catastrophic Bomb if we're fighting a bunch of shielded enemies, because now we're going to ignore those shields and then hit them with the attack 3 or 4, depending on how powered up we made the attack. So Portable Ballista here is very good. Fortified Position, this one is, again, going with more of the support role. At the end of your next 5 turns, you perform Heal 2, affect all adjacent allies' action. So every time there's adjacent ally to you at the end of the next 5 turns, you would heal them. So this one's a little better than the one that the Tinkerer had, because in this case, it's not always going to get activated every time you heal. It's only going to be activated when there's actually an ally adjacent to you at the end of your turn. So a good little, heal 2 here and there when people need it. And then the bottom, a move 3 and then shield yourself for 2. That's really powerful on the defense. Plus a 10 initiative for going early, especially if you want to use that shield. So if you're playing the tank role and the melee tank role, then this card would be really good. But we're going to take Portable Ballista because we're going for the ranged build. And now that we picked up that one, we're going to end up taking Crippling Bow out because, again, like I said, Portable Ballista is essentially attack 4, range 5, which is better. Does have to be the straight line, but usually that's not hard to make happen with a little bit of movement. So finally, now we'll move on to our level 9 cards for the Quartermaster, Scroll of Annihilation or Bag of Holding. Now, depending on how you've been playing, you could go back at level 9 here and pick up Refreshment to get your consumed items back on your long rest if you think you need it. That would be a powerful card to go ahead and take here. But let's talk about the level 9 cards first. So the top one is you kill 1 adjacent normal or elite enemy with Scroll of Annihilation here. So it's a burn, but again, as we've talked about in the past with other characters, anytime you can kill especially an elite enemy without having to roll any attacks on them, it burns your card, but you're saving you or your team several turns on killing that elite enemy, especially if they're one of the high health ones or have a lot of shields. So this is a very strong card. The bottom is a move 3, you disarm all adjacent enemies. Also very, very strong for mitigating damage. And then the Bag of Holding, this is great if you want to steal money from all your friends, because a loot 3 is a huge area that you could loot in, and it's a top, which means you could move first. And then the bottom is you and all adjacent allies may refresh all of your consumed small items. So essentially an upgrade to Oversized Pack's bottom, where this one allowed you to refresh your consumed small items. This one allows you and all of your allies to refresh your consumed small items. So out of these two, at this point, this one's actually really good for getting consumed items back, so you could make an argument for taking that. But Scroll of Annihilation and being able just to kill an enemy, that comes in handy a lot in a lot of scenarios. So I think we're going to take the Scroll of Annihilation here as our level 9 card. And then to put that one in, we'll probably take Side Pouch in, because at this point we don't need the loot anymore, and we probably haven't been using the top that much. So Scroll of Annihilation comes in, and there we have it. So remember, we have Oversized Pack to get consumed items back. We have Scroll of Recall to give us 1 of our consumed small items back. We have Reforge to give us 2 of our discarded cards back. And honestly, that's all we need to keep this forever staying in the game strategy going. And then as far as powering up our attacks, you definitely want Catastrophic Bomb and Scroll of Blizzards both to be powered up. And you could do that by playing one of these cards and using those items, and then you would use Oversized Pack to get all those items back and then be able to use them on the other attack. And honestly, I know this doesn't sound like much, but when you play these cards in the first couple rooms of scenarios, it can severely damage the enemies, reduce the amount of turns everyone else needs to clear the room. And if you have another character with AoE like I talked about, then you can easily just run through rooms like it's nothing. Regardless, Quartermaster, break the game, stays in the game forever, can do a lot of AoE damage with this build. So hopefully this is a build maybe you haven't seen before, maybe it's interesting, maybe you want to give it a try. But before we say any more, let's go ahead and move over to our items and talk items for the Quartermaster, because that again is very, very important to the build. So first up for items, of course, are our head items. And the only head item we really need to worry about with the Quartermaster is the Eagle Eye Goggles. Get these, especially for later on in the build when you have the big AoE attacks. You want this to make sure you don't pull any of your misses. So definitely take the Eagle Eye Goggles. But also another option could be something like the Empowering Talisman, because you can refresh one of your consumed items. Another way to get our stamina potions back and stay in the game longer. So either of these would be viable options. Although I think in the long run, because we can get things back from our own cards, that Eagle Eye Goggles will serve us better. And then as far as armor goes, the Quartermaster can wear armor. So basically the highest defensive armor that you currently have unlocked is what I would take for him. That way you have that extra shielding and can stay healthy longer, because again, the only way we're going to get knocked out is if our health reaches 0. And then when it comes to hand items, we have a few different options here. So we could go with shields again, just for the extra tankiness to stay in the fight. But if we're playing the more ranged build and we're not going to be taking as many hits, then it may not make as much sense. Maybe something like the piercing bow would make more sense, because now we can ignore shield values when we do our big area attacks without having to use our card that does the same thing. Or there's one more option, which is also a two-handed item, but the Staff of Eminence. Now this would be later in the game that you would have this. You're not going to get this early on, but you can consume an element to add +1 attack to the entire attack action. So this again takes something like Catastrophic Bomb here with attack 1. We use a major power potion, and in fact I think you may be able to stack and use your minor power potion on it as well. I am not actually 100% sure on that. I'd have to test that. But if that's the case, then those two potions, that makes this attack 4. Your card, if you use it proficiency, would add another one. That makes this attack 5. Then you could consume the element by using the Staff of Eminence, and now you have attack 6 in this huge, gigantic area. And then Eagle Eye Goggles, so you don't miss, and you're pulling a bunch of +1s and +2s. Huge damage. So that's definitely a viable option. And then moving on to our feat items here. So early on, you won't have much of a problem. Later on, you might want something like Boots of Striding to help you with movement. However, winged shoes will probably be more useful because we don't have any jump as the Quartermaster. So winged shoes, and then moving into the upgrades of the jet boots and rocket boots later on, would probably make the most sense for shoes. And then for our small items, we're going heavy on the potions with the minor stamina and minor power potions as early as we can get them. And then later on, we can upgrade those to their major versions, of course. But there also is one other item that, again, is much later in the game you'd have access to. But that would be the Star Earring, because this one, along with doing several other things, does help you recover 2 of your discarded cards. So another way for us to get cards back and stay infinitely in the game, replay those big area attacks, because they are not burns. That's the other great thing about Catastrophic Bomb and Scroll of Blizzards. They are not burns, which means we can get these cards back and do these attacks again. Now, the later in the scenario it gets, the harder it's going to be for us to maybe have all of our items to power them up, but still, they're very useful for hitting a bunch of enemies, and depending on your modifier cards you pull, can still do a lot of damage. So that covers the items. Let's go ahead and jump into the perks real quick. So again, as I mentioned, we can go ahead and ignore negative item effects, so we can wear armor. And this actually adds 2 +1 cards to us as well, which is a really nice little bonus. So we'll take Extreme Fortitude first for sure. And then we do have some interesting ones. So of course we have our -1s, so we'll want to take those out. This takes 2 -1s out each time we take it. So we're already looking really good on our positives here. And then we can take a 0 out and replace it with a +2, and we can do that twice. And then now we have a bunch of rollers. We have removing our 0s, and we have this one down here, which we add 1 0 card, but refresh an item card. Now, I can't remember in the digital if this allowed us to refresh the small consumed items as well. I think when we played it in the board game version, I think that's how we played it. I don't know for sure if the digital version plays the same way, if it's going to let us do that, if we were playing it correctly. But either way, still refreshing an item, even if it's just one of your spent items, this is really, really powerful. So I think what I would do is go ahead and remove the zeros first. So now we're definitely getting positives all the time. And then we can throw in these zeros where we get refresh items. Which also helps us make sure that we're not pulling these, because yes, we took 4 out, but then we just put 3 back in, so we still got pretty good odds on our positives over here. And now we're down to all our rollers. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the rolling ones, of course, for the extra damage, because that gives us 4 of those. And then from there, it's really more of personal preference, although I would say that the stun would be the most valuable one. And then if we're using range attacks, add target will be really good. And then muddles and pierces. And there you have it. So you can see that once we have a fully upgraded deck too, by the time we're up to level 6, 7, 8, we're going to be close to this situation here. Not all the rollers yet, but we at least have the positives going on and only have the couple negatives. So if we used Eagle Eye Goggles, odds are we're going to get +1s, +2s, ×2, +1 rollers, and we're going to do a ton of damage with those big area attacks. And these won't matter because we'll be using advantage with the Eagle Eye Goggles, which means every time one of these comes up, they won't get used. So that's how you turn the Quartermaster into a giant room nuker that never gets tired. So with all of that said, that is our Quartermaster. He's a really fun character to play. I had a lot of fun playing him with this build, trying something unique with him that no one else had played, because someone else in my group had played him before but didn't play him that way, so I was trying to do something different. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, remember to do all that YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, comment down below what you think about the Quartermaster, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and keep on gaming.